Welcome back, everyone. My name is Bertina, and I'm host for the Spiritual Sanctuary. I have to tell you, I almost didn't record this episode, and maybe that's exactly why I need to record it. Because today I'm coming from a place of not having everything figured out. I don't have a beautiful lesson tied up in a bow. I don't have some great revelation where I can tell you this happened and I know exactly what it means. I'm actually coming to you from a place of uncertainty and pain and exhaustion and a whole lot of wondering. I've been in pain since Sunday. I did a weekend at Cosmic Connections. I do those 2 times a month. And every time I come home, that Monday I need to recoup. And that's normal because I'm doing a lot of sitting or a lot of standing on my feet. And even though I do take breaks and take a lunch and things like that, I still am tired. So I always take Monday to recoup now that I don't have my other position. But the best way that I can describe the way that I feel is like I've been hit by a bus. You know, that kind of feeling where everything hurts. My body is so heavy and you're tired in a way that sleep doesn't seem to fix. I slept almost all day long on Monday and yesterday and this morning. And you're sitting here thinking, well, what in the world's happening to me? Well, that's where I am. I came home and pretty much went straight to bed. I slept, woke up around 3 o'clock in the morning, couldn't go back to sleep. What did I do? Of course, I did some work because apparently, when my body says, please stop, part of my brain still says, okay, but maybe we can answer a few emails first. And I know I'm probably not the only person listening who does that. I met with a friend on Monday. I came home and I slept again. And this time I slept for almost 16 hours. 16 hours. And you would think I would have woken up feeling like a brand new person, but no. I woke up this morning, yesterday morning, and today, and I'm still hurting. I'm still tired and still not completely sure what's happening. And I want to say something before we go any further. I don't believe that every illness, every pain, every physical symptom, or every difficult experience has some hidden spiritual meaning that we're supposed to decode. Sometimes our bodies hurt because something physically is happening. Sometimes we need rest. Sometimes we need medical care. Sometimes we need answers. And sometimes our bodies just do very human, very physical things. I never want spirituality to become a reason that we ignore our bodies. But I also believe that when something makes us stop, we sometimes hear things that we're too busy to hear before. And that's kind of where I found myself lying here, hurting, tired, frustrated, and thinking. And suddenly I realized something. It's the last week of August, and that thought would not leave me alone. The last week of August. There's something about this particular part of the year that feels like a threshold. Summer's not completely gone. Fall is not completely here. And we're standing somewhere between the two. And there's a different quality to the light. There's a different feeling in the evening. And you can almost sense that nature's begun to turn towards itself or towards what's coming next. Even if it's still hot outside, even if the calendar technically still says summer, something is shifting. And I started thinking about harvest and I started thinking about all the things we planted earlier in this year. Not just little plants, but our intentions and goals and our dreams, our relationships and plans and businesses and classes and all our spiritual practices, and more important, our hope. The things we said in January that we're finally going to do, the things we thought would surely have happened by now, the things that we were convinced would grow if we just gave them enough attention. And some of them did. Some of these things grew beautifully, maybe not exactly the way that we expected, but they grew. And some things did not. Some of the things never came out of the ground, and then some things started and stopped. And I'm finding that a lot of things started, but then they changed shape. And some even fell apart. And then some things turned out not to be ours. Sometimes we wanted so badly that we kept watering them long after we knew somewhere deep down that nothing was growing there. And I think this time of year asks us a really interesting question. What are you carrying into harvest? And then maybe even the harder question, what are you finally willing to stop carrying? I want us to spend some time with that today because maybe you're tired too. Maybe your body feels tired. Maybe your spirit feels tired. Maybe you've been working so hard to keep certain things alive that you haven't stopped to ask whether they're still alive. Maybe you've spent months trying to force something to bloom. And maybe you've been carrying expectations that don't even belong to you anymore. The lesson of the season is not to push harder, it's to release. Now, all this weekend while I was doing readings, I kept seeing images. And the image that kept coming to me with almost every single person was a tree. And I want you to imagine this with me. Imagine that you are a tree at the end of the summer. You've spent months holding leaves. Think about that. This tree has been holding hundreds, maybe thousands of leaves through heat and rain and wind and storms, through beautiful days and then miserable days. And some of the leaves are damaged and some are eaten by insects and some kind of curl around the edges. But others stayed really beautiful and green. Some grew in unexpected places and some blocked the light from other branches. Some grew out as large as the others, and some never grew quite as large as the others. But the tree held them, and then the season began to shift. The tree doesn't stand there screaming, "No, I worked so hard to grow these leaves, I refuse to let them go." The tree doesn't say, "But that leaf was part of my 5-year plan." And it doesn't say, "I invested 6 months in that leaf." It doesn't say, "What will everyone think if they see some of my branches are bare?" The tree releases, not all at once, not always gracefully, and some leaves hold on longer. Some fall earlier and some change color beautifully before they go. Some are ripped away by the wind, but eventually the tree lets them fall. And what I love about this image is this: the tree does not consider the fallen leaf a failure. The tree did what it came to do. It captured light, it nourished the tree, it created shade, and it existed for a season. And then its season ended. I wonder how differently we would live if we understood this about our own lives. Maybe not everything that ends was a failure. Maybe not everything that didn't last was a mistake, and maybe not everything that failed to become what we expected was wasted. Maybe some things were only meant to be for a season, and maybe that season is over. That doesn't mean it's worthless. It doesn't mean that it was a waste of time. It means that it's just time to release it. I keep imagining myself as that tree. I keep thinking maybe I need to shake, just shake. Shake off the leaves I keep carrying because I think I'm supposed to, and shake off all the things that did not work. Shake off the timelines, the pressure. Shake off the version of this year that existed in my head but never actually existed in reality. Shake off the promises I made to an earlier version of myself when I did not know what this year was going to ask of me. and shake off the guilt attached to rest and the need to prove that I'm productive. So shake, 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 shake it off. I'm not a big Taylor Swift but that's one of my songs that I really like. Let those leaves fall. And maybe you need to do that too. Just shake it off. Just let it go. Just let it go. I don't even have the energy right now to shake. And if you'll notice, even without a lot of the energy, your leaves are still going to fall. What did you think this year was going to look like? I want you to think back for a moment. Go all the way back to the beginning of this year. Who were you? What were you planning? And what did you think was going to happen? What did you just know you were going to accomplish? Who did you think would still be standing beside of you? And what do you think you figured out now? These are things we plant with tremendous hope, and hope is beautiful. I never want us to lose hope, but sometimes hope gets tangled up with expectation. An expectation says if A, then B, and this has to happen. If you work hard enough, this is going to be successful. If this person loves me enough, then they have to stay. If I do enough healing, people think that they'll never hurt again. But life doesn't work that way. Spirituality does not remove us from being human and being messy. In fact, I think genuine spiritual practice makes us more willing to be human, more willing to be uncertain, and more willing to say, I don't know, more willing to grieve and to change and to sit with the uncomfortable truth that sometimes we desperately wanted that did not happen. And I think we need to give ourselves permission to grieve the things that never came to fruition. We talk a lot about grief around death, and of course, grief is enormous, but we don't talk about the grief of the unlived life, the business that didn't take off, the class nobody signed up for, the relationship that never became what you thought it would become, and the friendships that faded, that trip you didn't take, and the dream you quietly stopped talking about, the version of yourself you thought you would be by now, the home, the family, the career, the financial security, the confidence. We grieve those things too. And maybe part of harvest is honoring that grief, not pretending we don't care, not saying everything happens for a reason and immediately skipping over the disappointment. Sometimes you need to say, I wanted that. I really wanted that, and it didn't happen. There's something sacred about being able to tell yourself the truth. I wanted this. It didn't happen. And I'm allowed to be sad about it. And then eventually I'm allowed to stop carrying it. Sometimes we think holding on proves about how committed we are. We say things to ourselves about, I'm not giving up, I'm going to keep fighting, I've come too far. And sometimes that's exactly what we need. There are seasons where persistent matters. There are dreams that require us to keep going, and these things are worth fighting for. But sometimes I'm not giving up becomes a person. Sometimes we're not persevering, we're repeating, and there is a difference. Sometimes we're pouring energy into something because we cannot emotionally tolerate admitting that it's ended or changed or become something different. And if you are exhausted right now, I want to ask you, is everything that you're carrying actually yours to carry? And is everything you're carrying still alive? Because dead things are heavy. Old expectations are heavy. Unspoken resentment is heavy. Trying to control other people is heavy. Trying to make someone love you is heavy. And maybe that's why the tree image feels so powerful to me today. A tree knows if it carries every leaf forever, it cannot survive the next season. The release is not weakness, the release is wisdom. The tree goes, let's go in order to conserve energy. It turns inward, becomes quiet. Its work changes, and the fact that we cannot see what is happening does not mean nothing is happening. And I think we need to hear that because we live in a world that celebrates visible growth. Launch it, post it, show it, sell it, announce it, achieve it. Oh. But some of the most important seasons of our lives look nothing like nothing from the outside. Resting, thinking, changing your mind, healing, reconsidering, releasing. You're becoming more honest. You're deciding what you don't want anymore, and you're sleeping. Apparently, in my case, I'm sleeping in 16 hours, and then maybe nothing Instagram worthy is happening. But maybe there's nothing you can put in a newsletter. Maybe there's nothing to announce. But something is still happening, and your roots are alive. This is what I've been thinking about as I sit here hurting. My plans have one agenda. My my body apparently has another. And I find that humbling because I'm a planner. I love ideas. I love creating. I love having something I'm working towards. And I think one of the most difficult spiritual practices for someone who is used to doing is learning how to simply be. Not because we've scheduled a meditation or we've got some elaborate spiritual ritual, not because we're trying to turn rest into another accomplishment, just being. There's nothing glamorous about being too tired. There's nothing glamorous about pain or about saying, I don't know what's wrong, but it is real life. And this is where spiritual practice does matter to me. Not everything is beautiful, and I have candles lit and music playing, and I feel completely aligned with the universe. Spiritual practice matters when I'm annoyed and when I'm disappointed, when I hurt, when I don't know what's coming next, and when I don't have an answer. Can I sit? Can I think? Can I allow uncertainty? Can I resist the urge to turn pain into punishment? I think one of the most important things is, can I resist asking myself, what did I do wrong? Something goes wrong and we immediately start investigating ourselves. Maybe my energy was wrong, or I manifested this, or I ignored a sign. But no, sometimes life is just simply life. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is drink water, cancel something, go to bed, call the doctor if you need to, ask for help, and stop trying to make the experience mean something. And then if meeting comes later, that's fine. You can listen, but don't force it. Right now, I'm just listening. I think our bodies have seasons too. And there's time when I have tremendous energy. I can create and talk and teach. And I have a dozen ideas before breakfast. And then there's times when my body goes, nope, not today. And I've not always been good at respecting that. Maybe you haven't either. We live in a culture where exhaustion can almost become a status symbol. How are you? Busy. We say it like an accomplishment. We don't say, I only slept 4 hours, or I have 3 jobs, or I haven't had a day off. I've been working nonstop. And before the summer, I always thought that this being exhausted meant I'm valuable, but it's not a proof of purpose. Pain is not proof that you're dedicated, and burnout is not a spiritual badge. And your worth does not increase based on how much you can endure. My body's not allowing me to pretend right now. I can make all the list I want. My body still gets a vote. So, why August? Why does this particular week feel more important to me? Because late August is still abundant. There's still life everywhere, but there are clues that abundance is changing. The season is maturing, and things that you've been growing are becoming ready to harvest. And a harvest has always had two sides. We celebrate what grew, but we also clear what didn't. You don't leave everything in the field forever. And there's a point where you gather what's ready. You compost what's finished and you clear space. You save seeds. You decide what's going to come with you. And then what I want us to invite to do is not because August 31st is just some magical deadline. I think it's a moment where we stop and look around and say, where have I been? What have I happened? What grew? What didn't? And what I'm proud of and what I'm grieving. You don't have to wait until New Year's Eve to ask questions about what you want to carry forward and what you want to release. The end of summer is a beautiful place to stop and notice because the year is not over. There's still time. I want you to say something. You do not have to harvest everything you planted. You can postpone it. You cannot do it. You can change your mind. I thought I was supposed to do this, but I don't want to do it anymore. That's a good idea, but it's not a good idea for me right now. You can say, I tried. It didn't work. So I want you to imagine that you are that tree. Imagine that you begin shaking loose the leaves that are finished. One by one, they fall. Shake it off. Shake it off. Yeah, I'm a horrible singer, but that's okay. Shake off the expectations and the old stories and the obligation and the guilt and the things that you've kept around simply because you've already invested so much time. They fall. And what I want you to do is look at your tree. What's still there? What's still alive? What's the one thing you want to carry into harvest? Not 10 things, not 20, not a giant, great list, just one. Peace, relationship, a creative project. Maybe you don't even know yet, and that's okay. But I think there is something powerful about asking if I could carry only one thing from this session, from this season into the next, what would I choose? You can bless an opportunity and say no. You can love an idea and not build it. What are you keeping alive because you're afraid of what happens if you let it die? Are you afraid of the empty space it might create? Maybe if you stop trying to make this business work, what does that say about you? What about if you end this relationship? What happens next? Are things going to fall apart? The empty branch can be terrifying, but the empty branch is where next year's growth happens. Think about that. The tree does not know exactly what every new leaf will appear. It still lets go. There's trust in that. Not certainty, but trust. And I want you to think about this. I don't want you to become bitter. Well, that was a waste of time. I want you to think about the fact that you are really you're learning how to bless and let things go. And I want to thank you for what you have taught me. I want to thank you for the joy that you give me. I want to thank you for showing up today when I did not want to. I'm so tired. I want to thank you for helping me see myself differently and to introduce me to someone that I actually like more. I want to thank you for making me stronger. And I want to thank you for being part of my life. And sometimes releasing things that didn't make it into your life, that's okay. Things matter. They matter deeply. And that's why releasing things hurt. Leaves are beautiful before they fall, and they're beautiful on the ground. I think that something can be beautiful and still be finished. I think that's one of the hardest truths we also learn. A relationship can contain love, but still needs to end. A career can have meaning, be meaningful, but not fit anymore. And a spiritual path can have taught you something and still not be why you stay. I want to give you a moment here. If you can, put your feet on the floor, or if you're lying down, just allow your body to settle. You don't have to sit up perfectly. You don't need to make this look like meditation. Just be comfortable. Take a breath. Just breathe. Notice where your body's touching the chair and ask yourself, what am I tired of carrying? Maybe you see a word or a person or an image. Maybe nothing comes, and that's okay. Now ask yourself, what did I hope would happen this year that did not happen? Tell the truth, no judgment, no explanation, just notice. Imagine that thing is a leaf attached to one of your branches. Look at it, acknowledge it. Say, maybe I wanted you and I hope for you, you mattered to me. And ask yourself, is it time to let this leaf fall? The answer may be yes, and maybe not yet. Both are okay. Now imagine another leaf, something you're carrying because you think other people expect you to. Look at it. Do you still want to carry it? And continue today looking through your leaves and another leaf and ask yourself all kinds of questions. What fear does this leaf hold a fear? Just notice these leaves and then imagine the wind moving through your branches, not violently, just really gentle. These leaves begin to loosen. Some begin to fall. Some twist in the air and some hold on. Let them. You don't have to rip them off. Anything truly ready to leave will eventually release. And then ask yourself, what's alive in me? What still has energy? What still has warmth? And let that answer come and breathe. I'm asking myself these questions too. My body's already told me what it wanted. And I woke up and thought, well, I can work a little. I can choose to rest. I prefer not to hurt, and I will not romanticize pain. I want to be very clear about that. But I can ask myself, what if my body's not inconveniencing me? And what if my body is communicating to me? I'm going to rest. I'm going to hydrate. I'm going to slow down. And I'm going to experience everything today: joy, happiness, sadness, grief, release. This body's not separate from my spiritual life, and maybe honoring the body is part of my spiritual life, and maybe listening when it hurts is sacred. So simply begin to ask yourself, what are you ready to release? What is alive? And I want to give you one final moment. Close your eyes if it's safe to do so. Imagine yourself standing beneath the tree at the end of the summer and the branches are above you. The air is beginning to change and you hear the leaves moving. One leaf falls, then another, and another. And you don't chase them. You don't pick them up and try to put them back on the tree. You just let them fall. Imagine that each leaf carries something you no longer need. And as it creates space for you to see something that was hidden, take a breath and ask yourself, what am I carrying into the harvest? Take another breath and just breathe. I don't know exactly what the next few days are going to look like for me. I know I'm still hurting, I'm tired, and I know my body's asking something of me that I'm trying to listen to. Maybe this episode is part of me listening, and maybe instead of waiting until I figured everything out, I needed to meet you here, right in the middle. Because maybe you're in the middle of something too. Maybe you don't know how it ends or what it means, or just that something hurts. Just ask what is still alive and let's hold that. And then just allow yourself to be. Allow the leaves to fall. Take what's nourished you, take what taught you, and take the one thing that's still alive and carry this into harvest and leave enough empty space on your branches for whatever you want. So I'd like to ask you all to either comment below and let me know where you are on your journey. If you would like to keep up with my blog and my podcast, you can go to my website, bertina.org, bertena.org. Scroll down and sign up for my newsletter. You'll get 2 or 3 emails a week. It will have my blog, my events, where I'm at, and this podcast. I also give away a lot of freebies, a lot of cool things there, but really, I just want you to come into my tribe. I want you to be part of my spiritual sanctuary. And I just want to get to know each and every one of you all. Hope you have a wonderful night and know that this is where you're welcome.